Hello and welcome to another edition of Premier League Overtime. Great to have your company here once again this week. Sam Tugwell here joining you with Doug McDonald-Taylor as he does each and every week. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, Sam, and interesting week of basketball. A few interesting games, and most notably the Norwood men's team going down for the first time, and I'm sure our guest will be able to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, that's it. They were one loss, and it's very rare to see Norwood lose, in fact, in the competition. So to tell us all about it and joining us for the rest of the show today is the man himself from the men's side from the Norwood Basketball Club, Andrew Webber. Thanks for coming on, mate, today, and great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having us. Much appreciated. Loving your show. I'm sure everyone from the league is really appreciating the work you guys are doing. It's fantastic stuff.
It's great to have you on the show, of course. We've got a few games to cover just quickly before we have a quick chat to you about your career and this year and last year and all the great things you've been involved in there at Norwood so far. But of course, the results from round two, we've got to have a quick look at that. And the winners were pretty scattered, but mainly the sides you'd expected to win, I think, got up there, especially the men's game. We had a few really, really good ones. The Sabres and Districts, Central Districts, of course, they were in a really tight contest there. I guess the Lions stepped up from a week before, and then the Warriors and North Adelaide Rockets in the men and women's games, really close ones because they pretty much came down to the wire in both those ones there. Doug, did you see any games in particular that you really liked?
Oh, look, the Sturt game, that was quite close, and Sturt have been good without being great this year. A solid win over South. And another close win over Centrals. Hamish Burns having a great year, 22 points. So he's certainly come of age. So 2-0, they'd be happy with their start.
Absolutely, and of course we're just going to quickly look at those highlights from the Woodville and North game here. And Woodville, in the women's game especially, they came out with a real narrow win over the Rockets, but it was mainly due to that third quarter where they hit 26 points to North Adelaide's 14, which got them over the line in the end, and a really determined effort to get them across there. But the men's game, I think, was just the exciting one that really capped off the night. A terrific last quarter effort from from the Rockets, getting them a couple of last-minute three-point shots. Tom Rowe and Brett Collins doing the job there. Always good when it comes down to the final minute and you get some big three-point shots in.
Oh, absolutely. And also, we've got to mention Luke Mapunda. I mean, his first two games, he's averaging 14 rebounds a game, and he's effectively a shooting guard, possibly a small forward. To get 14 rebounds a game to go along with 20 points a game, he's turning back the clock, and I can't ever remember him rebounding that well.
No, it's surprising to see him pounding the paint like that. Normally likes to go on the outside a bit more, but he's had a great year so far, and it's always good to see someone from, I guess, my age group back in the day throwing back the clock and putting up some big numbers. So yeah, I'm really happy for Luke. He's been playing well so far.
Phenomenal start of the season for himself. Sturt and Centrals, Austral was down there during the week, and we saw a really close game there, of course, with the men. It was about 3 points the difference for majority of the game, which surprised a few, I think, after the Lions' poor start against Southern, but they really bounced back well and played a really strong game, and unfortunately just the last 5 minutes of the game just couldn't hold on, and as you said before, Hamish Burns doing good things there and getting himself 22 points for the night and helping his side across the line there at home.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Sturt have a really good core, and they've been playing together for a long time. Jon Warbout, Tim Clayson, the veteran Mark Bauer, just to name a few. So, down the stretch, when they played together that long, that would have helped. But yeah, definitely a missed opportunity for Centrals. They would have loved to have bounced back and get the win against Sturt. They find themselves 0-2 now, and they're staring down the barrel.
Well, chances gone missing there, but of course it's early in the season, so we hope the best for those guys. And then your mob there, Andrew, down on the weekend, Friday night at Southern, it was a pretty close game until the last quarter. Unfortunately, you couldn't get across the line. You had the lead for majority of the game. How does it feel going down to a side as good as Southern, though? They've improved really well over the off-season. How does it feel to go down to a side like that in a game where you pretty much had them on the ropes for a while there?
Yeah, look, obviously it's disappointing to lose the game and have them come over the top like that, but to be honest, it was a really good game. There was a big crowd down there, and they did a good job, the Southern club. So they've done well to bring in Mitch, and Sam Johns played really well. It was disappointing for them to run over the top. Well, I thought we were executing pretty well in the first quarter. We were shooting a pretty high percentage, but they sort of came back. They made some adjustments, and in the end, they really pounded us down low in the paint, and we just didn't have an answer. And Mitch had a few, he had 40, 15, and 6, I think. So he was pretty damaging. Had a few steals and dunks, and the crowd loves that. So they got up and about, and it was once they sort of got on top, it was challenging to get back into it. But I thought Matty Lysett played really well. He's been great this year, following on from his Woolacott last year. I thought Daniel Webber, my brother, played pretty well as well. So overall, Jacob Holmes wasn't there, so it's going to be they're going to be really strong this year, Southern, and I believe they've signed Starling as well for this year, which makes them even more of a threat. Well, I guess they're going to be around the mark, so they're going to be a big team. So I guess it's up to the rest of us to make the adjustments, and they're clearly out in front at the moment, so it's the rest of us to sort of catch up and go from there.
Yeah, well, they've certainly come out of the blue, haven't they? Yeah. So they're on the up at the moment. We've spoken about them the last couple of weeks, so they're definitely an emphasis in the men's comp especially. But you guys had a very, very good year last year yourselves, the men, but not just that, the club yourselves, 2 championships, you swept the comp, the women went 24-0, you guys were just phenomenal in the men's side as well, you took out the grand finals. How much confidence do you guys take going into a new season like this with 2 championships under your belt? It must be a really satisfying thing, and do you have that extra confidence you can go out there and do it again?
Absolutely. I think winning last year has sort of shown to the guys that it's possible, because a lot of the guys hadn't won a championship previously. So I guess myself and Jake were probably the main guys that had won previously, so sort of knew what it takes to get that done. But I think it just makes it a bit harder to get up the next year and make sure that you lose that tiny bit of drive, because you're like, oh, we won last year, but you always want to bounce back. So it's easier to win one, but it's harder to defend one. So we've had a pretty good pre-season, and I think we'll be around the mark again this year. And from a club perspective, it was obviously fantastic. The girls have been really strong for a number of years, and we were just really pleased for the club that we could, new management committee was in there. I'm involved in that as well. So we did a number of things to sort of improve the club, new uniforms and trying to market it, make it a little more professional. And I think that sort of paid dividends, and it was great for the whole club and to get involved and obviously to win. So.
Doug, yourself, you and Andrew used to play against each other back in the day. You've obviously played with him. What's it like?
It's always entertaining playing against Andrew Webber. Forestville and Norwood have a long history, 10, 11 good years now of great matchups, and I was probably part of half of those years. And this week again they're playing against each other this week, so that's good timing. But big finals games. When you play against a certain team a lot in finals, you get that rivalry, and I think there's 6, 7 championships between the 2 teams over the last 11, 12 years. So it's great rivalry, and it's always good banter.
Yeah. You're spot on. Well, we're going to have a quick look at a little game in particular. Well, I guess it wasn't little, it was pretty significant in the end, where back in 2008, when it was no longer the Premier League, but it was the ABL, and these two faced off in one of the biggest and probably the most incredible games of basketball you will see. We're going to take a quick look here, Doug. I know this is nightmare stuff for you, but this
I
is...
haven't slept well since this night.
This is the 2008 Grand Final. This is the last 20 seconds of the game. There's Krause just putting in a nice little 3 points there to level the scores. And it seemed like it was all a real good chance when Forestville, and just a nice drive there to put the Eagles in front by 2 points. And at this stage, Webbs, you were probably thinking it's all over for us, 3 seconds to go. What was going through your head then?
Yeah, I was pretty upset at that point. But I think I remember Cooper saying at that point, he sort of mentioned that Hobbs might miss the free throw because he hadn't had the best percentage that year, I don't think. So he sort of said, just get the ball and we'll see what happens. So I was obviously very upset to start with, but then after a while, like, maybe we can get a shot up, and that was the mentality was if we can get the ball in and get a shot, then who knows what can happen.
So the shot was just about to come. This was Peter Hoban here after his 2-pointer. He's actually missed. Coops has pulled it down to the half court to yourself there, Webbs. 3.5 seconds to go, buzzer, and this happened. How about that? And you've won the grand final with a half court 3-point shot, double teamed as well. Is that not one of the most incredible moments of your life?
Yes, it would be definitely up there, probably the most incredible at this point, obviously. So that was a pretty special moment for us and the guys. A lot of hard work had gone in to get to that point. As Dougie would know, it's hard to get there. They knocked us off the year before, the 2 years prior, with Jason Dix hitting a 3 right near the end of the game, which I can assure you that hurt in the prelim. As Dougie said, there's been some really good matches between us Forestville and Norwood over the years, and this was just another chapter in that, and there's been a few more since then as well. So
absolutely, yeah, definitely. The big thing about that shot, and I don't like to give the man praise, but you see a lot of these shots, especially with March Madness at the moment. So many long bombs to win games and to progress to the next stage, or a lot of half-time buzzers, but very rarely you see one to win a championship.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable piece of history for South Australian basketball, and it's just a pity it happened to be against my boys. Yeah.
Dougie, you probably got a few questions for Andrew yourself.
I do have a few questions for Andrew.
He's got them all lined up.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions here. We'll kick off with, we've talked about last year's championship.
Yep.
It was a 6-year gap, I think. It was a wonderful effort. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
There's not many people walking around with 3. And a lot of people have 1 and 2, so you should feel proud about that. Where does it sit? Obviously, we saw the 2008, and then you backed it up with 2009. Mm-hmm. Where does it sit? Are they all the same, or is there a difference?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. They're all, I guess they're all separate, and they're all equally good in their own right. But that one was very satisfying because we knew what it took to get there. I'd been there previously, and it just seemed it was so far away, I guess, the years before, and coming up short, it just makes it even harder to get back there. And if you don't win every year, you sort of feel like we should win every year, but then you lose another prelim, you lose a few finals, you miss the finals, and all of a sudden it's been 6 years, and you're like, oh, we haven't won for a while. And for me, like, winning that grand final, that was my 4th grand final. So if we were to lose that one, it would have been, fifth grand final. So if we'd have lost that, it would have been 2 wins, 3 losses, which would have sucked, obviously. But it was a different group, and that's what was special about it to us, was it was a different group of guys. I mean, the first 2 we had was the same group with the Tomos, Krauses, Toddies, Coops, were all involved in that, Sam Grantham, Coriotti, those guys. So this was a completely new group, and I think Daniel, Ben Howe and myself were the only real holdover, and Keith obviously was still involved from that group. So it was just really good to have something separate with these guys that we could all share together, and I think that's what I got the most enjoyment out of it. And also being, I guess, on the committee and helping, be involved from a club perspective and showing what that means to them was awesome as well.
Oh, good. And you mentioned Keith Krause. Over 300 games, All-Star 5. He's been involved in 4 championships. He's a great mate of both yours and mine, and many people through Norwood Club. He's finally retired. What's it like not having a big fella around? What's it like in the change rooms? Because you would never have played without him, really.
That's right, yeah.
And also with him and a couple of others, with Jennings and Handball retiring as well. Who's up and coming? Who's going to fill that role off the bench to help you guys go back to back?
Yeah, well, I'll start off with Keith. He, I've played with Keith since I've been 17, so it was, now I'm 30 now, so it's been 13 or 14 years playing with the guy. So we've got a pretty special bond. We spent a lot of moments together, playing and otherwise. So it's been, it's a shame that he can't play forever. But you miss the banter in the locker room. He's very quick-witted, as you know. He's a funny guy, and you miss his leadership out on the court. There's probably a few less balls kicked at training and mouth guards thrown, but it's been a lot of fun playing with him. But on to the next chapter, and he had obviously his knee issue. That I will point out that last year he did tear his ACL and did play a game on it. So without him knowing, so that's Keith for you. We've got a few guys up and coming though. We've got Adrian Blom's in there. He's been playing a few minutes. Jordan Girardi is a 17-year-old. He's a really good size, and he's got a lot of potential moving forward there. And then we've got Josh Hubbard, who's come over from North or back from playing footy, and he's a good size, and he's been doing pretty well the first few games. So they've played a nice role, and it's Jack Jennings and Handball leaving has been, it's a pretty big void to fill. They were both very serviceable last year, so hopefully get some of the younger guys to step up.
Yeah, okay. Your brother, Daniel, now when I was last playing a couple of years ago, he was probably a 12th man, and he didn't really, to me, I didn't think he was ever going to eventuate to anything. Then I look at last year, 13 points a game, was a starter in a championship year.
Yep.
So just fill us in a little bit what he's done from going from a 12th man to a starter in a championship team.
Well, I think it's all the credit to him. He's worked hard to get into that position, and I think he's unlucky a few years to not be getting as many opportunities as perhaps he deserves. Even early on, he was young. He was obviously very, very light framed. Yes. But he's shown a few years. I think when Toddy Matthews was out with a torn calf, he actually played and he was averaging about 15 points a game to start for about an 8-game period. So he showed he could play, but he just wasn't really physically ready, I don't think. So he spent a lot of time in the gym. He's in pretty good shape now, and he's just worked hard and listens to me now. So a bit of shooting before practice helps him as well. So it's been really pleasing to see him really make an effort, and that's what was, I guess, so good last year was winning the championship with him there as my brother. It's pretty special, and Dad being the manager as well. So it's a good feeling when your whole family's involved, and it was a great thing for both of us to be involved in that.
He's certainly come up the ranks. Well done to him. Now, 14-year career roughly. I remember you in sort of 2003, 2004. A young, confident bloke, which I have to admit I didn't think you had the talent to back it up. But you certainly proved me wrong there. You've been a fabulous guard in this league for many years. Just looking at some of the coaches you've had: Rupert Sapwell, Brad Davison, David Cooper. I mean, that's basketball royalty right there.
Yep.
What sort of influence have those guys had on your game, and anyone else that's sort of helped you along the way from being a young guy to one of the best players in the league?
Well, I think the first person that really influenced my game was Matt Dodson. Most people may not know him, but he was my coach in under-18s, and he's very, very hard. He really challenges you, and I quite needed that at that age. So he was really good, extra shooting practice, and just really keeping me accountable for my actions and that. And as you said, as a young guy, I was pretty confident coming out there. I do remember the first game I played was against Forestville. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and I think Jason Dixon and you guys won the championship the year before, I think. So I came out and I wasn't used to not wearing my basketball gear out there, because in juniors you wear your gear out to the game. So I rocked up, go to the locker room ready to put my shoes on, no socks. So I didn't bring any socks because I didn't realise I used to always wear them to the game. So didn't have any socks. So Dad was standing there, so I said, "Dad, can I have your socks?" So he took his socks off and to put them on and play with them. So that was the first game, and I think we ended up losing by 30. So I got a few minutes there, but I think I scored a few points, so that was good. And what was the question again?
Just influence and the
influences,
and the three big coaches, and obviously Dodson as well.
Yeah, so Sapper was great. He's a very relaxed kind of guy, and he was awesome for our team at that time. We had obviously a very good team, a lot of, I guess, star names and just players, and he sort of opened up the game and made it a bit more of a try to have us a little bit more fun, less rules and more freelancing type stuff, which was fantastic. So his leadership, along with Carlo, and my dad was on as assistant coach as well at the time. It was a good coaching panel, so they were fantastic together. Brad was great as well. For me personally, as a point guard, he had some tremendous tips, on how to run the point. And I had a few injuries with him as a coach, but he was very good from there. And Coops has been fantastic. Obviously, playing with him early in the career is a bit of a challenge when you've played with someone for that many years and then your coach. So you're used to that dynamic as a colleague, but then when they become the coach, it's slightly different. So, but Coops is awesome. He's got his I guess theories on how the game should go, and obviously last year he was spectacular in the results. So he's been great.
Yeah, he's a premiership
That's right.
coach now, isn't he?
Right.
Now, toughest opponent. So who's the guy over your career when you go out in that first possession of the game and you realise he's come to you and you think, I'm in for a long night? Give me a name.
Doug, you just want it to be you, don't you?
We usually meet somewhere around mid-court.
That's right.
During the game.
Some sort of back screen around there somewhere. I think my toughest opponents, or the people I enjoyed most playing against, was Brad Sullivan. Was always a challenge. He was, I'm only going against the guys that are my size because I'm, the big guys don't really have. There's not much I can really do there.
Yeah.
To try and shut them down. I liked playing Sully. He was a warrior. He was a tough guy, and he gave back as good as I gave, which was always fun. And Darren Ings, a very tough cover. He's a tremendous shooter and great athlete. So he's obviously won several Woolacotts, so he's been pretty good. Eric Burden was another one. He was always a tough cover. He's also a Woolacott medalist. I grew up with Eric. He's the same age group, and he's just a great player and a good friend of mine. He's doing really well down in Mount Gambier. He's won a few titles there. So, yeah, those three were pretty good challenge. Obviously, the imports that come in are all very, Riley Ludegoat and guys like that were all very very talented players. So they all offer a different challenge. So, but I enjoy playing against all of them, and I just like the competition and going at it with them. It's always fun.
You're a competitive bloke, Andrew. I'll give you that. And which brings me to my next question. Over the journey, some years more than others, you've been seen as somewhat of a villain of this league, possibly a person that people love to hate. You've done a few things physically that's a little bit controversial in games. How does that sit with you, knowing that some people have those thoughts about you? Yeah,
I guess as a young guy, it's probably a bit more challenging to really I don't really see myself as a villain. I just sort of went out and played hard, and I think my thing's always been, I'm sure most teams don't really enjoy playing against me, but as long as my teammates like me and are happy to be playing with me, that's sort of how I felt about that. So it can be sometimes as the crowd can get pretty involved and say some things that can be interesting, but yeah, I actually enjoy it because it just makes it more fun for the crowd, I think, and for teams to go at it. And sometimes people get more focused on perhaps the man rather than the game itself. So it's I just like playing, going out there and just competing. And sometimes some people don't like that as much as others. So I just enjoy the challenge, really.
Do you think I can totally relate to that? That's a pretty good answer, mate. Look, and the league's been lucky to have you 14 years, and you're a reason for teams to come out and really want to get a win against Norwood, and you've been great for the league. We need plenty of players like you that play a long time at a good level. So you should be proud of what you've done. And thanks for coming. Well, thanks again for coming in. And I guess that's probably all the questions I have, Sam.
You've certainly run off quite a lot of important topics, and it was really great to hear your insight there, Andrew. And we'll just basically go straight into some of the results as we look at the ladders now. And your mob, Andrew, of course, with that loss to Southern now, sit in 5th place on the ladder. Probably not desired, but it's only round 2, of course. Probably up and up after that, surely?
Yeah, I hope so. I think we started the same last year, 1-1. So we got the break this week, then Forestville. So I think we'll have Jacob back next week. He's been overseas on watching NBA games, so he'll be back, and we'll give it a crack next week.
He'll be enjoying that, of course. The two sides in men and women who are currently undefeated are Sturt and Forestville, so they're going very nicely at the moment. They'll return after the Easter break, of course, this weekend with round 3, and Doug, probably the game of the round just so happens to be the two sides that you two here beside me are affiliated with, Norwood and Forestville at Wavell. That is probably the pick of the bunch, you would say. That in both women and men is going to be a serious matchup, and I'm looking forward to that myself.
Oh, absolutely. Foley versus Thompson's going to be a cracker. I went and saw Forestville on the weekend, and I didn't give their women's team, I didn't think they had the depth that they had. They ran away with a good win against South, 50-point win, and we've talked about Morgan Yeager and Olivia Thompson as their guns, but it goes deeper than that. Samantha DiFrancesco, Hannah Lehman, Amy Brett, Alex Duncan's still around, a three-time championship player. So they have quite a lot of depth, and they play. Monica Bello, the new coach, has got them playing an exciting brand of basketball. Their defense are up and in, and they're running offensively. They're running the court. I mean, they were over 50% from the field on the weekend, and 44 points in the paint. So that's telling you that they're getting a lot of layups.
Yep.
And they're working hard, and they totally ran over South. So whether they're up to Norwood, look, I'm not sure. Norwood had a great win on the weekend.
Yeah.
Andrew, they had six girls in double figures.
Yep.
We all thought Southern was going to be a challenger.
Yeah.
And did you see any of that game?
I did. I caught a couple of quarters of that game. They look really good. Steph Talbot coming back in. She was very, very classy. She had some really good. She's just a good player. And obviously Taylor Orlip and Jess Good was great, and they, it looked like they pounded them inside pretty hard. I think it was what have we got here? 48 points in the paint to 22. So they looked like a pretty well-oiled machine out there, and I think Forestville will be a tough matchup for them. They always play them close down at Wavell. I'm assuming that's where they're playing this week. Yeah. I should know because I'm playing.
Well, you want to know where you are in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, that's it. Like, you guys got anyone in particular you're looking to focus in your men's game, especially? Who's the guy you want to stop Forestville, I guess?
Well, obviously Adam Doyle. He's been playing really well. He's a quality player. He had some good numbers last week. I think he had 30 odd points.
He did what he wanted last week.
Yeah.
South didn't have a cover for him.
Yeah. So he was good. And I saw Trent Files is back, and he's a quality player as well. He's multiple championships, and he's a big body, and he had a big double last week as well. So those two guys, and obviously Rios is danger from outside, and Gerlach's always around the place doing his thing. So.
It's going to be a great game.
It's going to be a really good contest. Can't wait for that game there at Wavell. So make sure you get to that, and of course the other games: Starplex, Port Adelaide, Morphett Vale and Marion, so don't miss any of the action. In 2 weeks' time, of course, it's Easter this weekend, so enjoy your break from all the basketball, and we'll see you all on the court in 2 weeks' time. But for the show, thank you so much, Andrew, for coming in, mate.
Pleasure, thanks for having me.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks,
mate.
Cheers.
Doug, of course, great to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, great to be here again, and have a great Easter, everyone. Stay safe on the roads, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
That's it. We'll see you in a few weeks' time here on Premier League Overtimes. We return with plenty more basketball action from your Premier League. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.